What's up, Deadheads and horror fans? It is Brian Castrillo, and I'm back with a review for you. I just watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that just came out. It's on Netflix. Go check it out. It's a great movie. Special effects is fantastic. The death scenes are amazing. But let's talk about this. So This movie takes place basically 50 years after the original movie, after the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this might be the first time. I mean, I'm a huge horror fan. I love Freddy Krueger. I love Jason. I love Michael Myers. But typically in these horror movies, you have kind of a hero. You got that kind of saves the day, and you feel bad for these kids going through that. Even though you love getting scared, you love the the specific horror individual in whatever movie you're watching. But this movie made me actually root for Leatherface himself, the actual the monster, if you will. And let's talk about it. So it takes 50 years after the original, and it seems as though Leatherface has gone kind of dormant. He's disappeared. He hasn't really done anything, and he's living with his mom in this old kind of rundown town, and you got these young kids, really kind of obnoxious, and they're coming from the city. They basically kind of want to buy the town and just kind of make it their own utopia, if you will, and kind of revive the city. But right from the get-go, they're heading into town, and they stop at this gas station, and one of the main characters, Melody, played by Sarah Yarkin, who did a fantastic job. Her character was incredibly obnoxious to another character named Richter, who's portrayed by Mo Dunford, and just kind of had this sort of woke attitude because he had a gun and was, making comments like, how he must have a small dick because he has to carry a gun. You know the type, but he actually ends up becoming a very likable character, although did he have a painful death scene. But the very first death scene in this, let me break down some of the cast. So you got Elsie Fisher, that's her. She plays Leela. She is the sister to Melody, and Leatherface, played by Mark Burnham. You got Owen Fiore, which is Sally Hardesty. She is the lone survivor from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The blonde-haired lady from the first one who escaped. And of course, like I said, Richter, who is played by Mo Dunford, and some other cast. But I really enjoyed this movie. And there's some fantastic visuals in this movie. The first death scene was fucking epic. They go into this town, and they find Leatherface's mother, and they're basically saying that they own they bought it because the bank gave it up, and they're basically telling her that she needs to leave, and she was supposed to leave 2 weeks ago, and she's saying, no, I still have the title, and being really kind of obnoxious to her, not realizing who her son was, which he did kind of make an appearance from the top of the stairs. But so they're arguing with her, and eventually, she starts having trouble breathing, and they had to bring her in a squad car, and Leatherface goes with her, although he's not really crazy at this time. But in the squad car, or with the sheriffs, because they're trying to get her some help, she eventually dies, and this must have been the switch that flipped him back to the way he was, because I think what she was doing throughout these 50 years is she was helping him maintain somewhat of a normalcy if that's possible for him. And she even mentions how he doesn't do well in society. But she's managed to keep him quiet, I guess, for 50 years. And so he dies, and one of the sheriffs, like, because he's going crazy. He doesn't want his mother to die, and he has the oxygen tank, and he has it on her face, and he's like shaking. He's like freaking out, and then one of the cops, he puts his hand on top of his hand over the oxygen, the top tank. And holy shit, this was a gruesome fucking death. He grabs him by the hand and literally like just snaps it like a little twig. And you see the bones protruding, and he takes that and like shoves it right into his throat and into his face. And what he did in that scene, like, was absolutely epic. Those are the type of death scenes you want in these horror movies. And one of the one of the girls that came there with them, and she was actually one of the more nicer ones, but she was taken out by Leatherface. But there's two scenes that happen over here that I thought was really cool as far as visually. One of them was Leatherface peers over, so there's this field of basically dead sunflowers, and he peers his head over it. And just, if you take a moment, that would be, if you're a horror fan, you want posters, that is something you could hang on your wall. That just, the look of him just peering over the sunflowers. And keep in mind, he just literally cut the face of his mother and attached it to his face, the leather face that we know. And that, for a moment, that was just kind of an epic, kind of scary, gruesome scene. And then, holy shit, this was fucking creepy as fuck. But we find he set his mother up almost like a scarecrow, so to speak, and she's just sitting up in the middle of this field. And just go see it. Google if you have to, but you know what? Before you even do that, just go watch this, because to see that as it happens it's sick. It's creepy. Literally, that scene is one of my favorite scenes in a lot of horror movies. I absolutely love that. And it just goes to show you like his mentality and how he's thinking. Keep in mind, to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he lived with his family, and they kind of took care of each other. So just keep that in mind as that happens. Now then he ends up going, back towards the town where he was living, and one of the other guys, he's going in with Melody in there to try and find basically the deeds list to prove that they had every right to be there, because that other character, Richter, had took their keys and said, if you can't find the deed, then you can't get these car keys back, or the bus keys or whatever. And so they go back into this house to basically try and look for the title, see if they had it. And they actually found out that she did have it. It was like in this little lockbox. And, Melody's, her character's kind of starting to change, because she was really obnoxious. But as she goes on, she's kind of feeling sorry for what had happened to, the older lady. But this is where everything is just going to shit. Like, and Leatherface comes in and he cuts him right in the face. And they show him later, and he can't talk or anything, but you have this gash right on his face, and because he ends up getting up and walking where someone else, found him. And just the detail and the special effects makeup that they did in this was absolutely freaking epic. As someone who has done special effects, especially for, our Columbus Zombie Walk, because I do a zombie during our zombie walk for charity out here, but that was freaking epic. That was top tier. Chef's kiss to that. to that. But then the character Richter comes in, and he's kind of a bad. He looks like he's just by his mannerisms, he's either a cop or ex-military, and he's going into because he must realize you know, how crazy this guy is. And he's going in to save, you know, try and save Melody now. And she's hiding under the bed, and she's kind of using her feet to move this mirror so he can see. But holy shit, this death was fucking epic. And I kind of felt bad for his character because he was really likable. But he just smashed his head. Like, there was literally no head anymore. This, the amount of times that he just smashed his head was gory, gruesome. Again, these are the type of deaths you want in your horror movies. And this movie had a lot of tension in it. It kept me focused on the movie. But as he dies, he basically takes the keys out, and so she sees it because she's watching him get his head smashed, and he puts the keys out so she knows. Finally, you know, we get Sally Hardesty. She comes back, and you know, she's trying to run away with the two sisters, and he, you know, she comes out and says, I've been waiting 50 years for this. So she's been waiting for some sort of knowledge that he's still around, because like I said, he was in hiding. And what had happened was one of the girls who died with the sheriffs, you know, the original death, she was, you know, talking over the radio before she was killed and saying that he's wearing her face, and that tipped off an old guy who was like running a store, and he called Sally Hardesty, who you see this visual of her, you know, gutting a pig, and just really almost like she was Leatherface in that scene. But she comes back, she's got this vendetta to take him out, and it doesn't really go in well for her, but she does save one of our characters as she's dying, because she was basically, you know, gutted with the chainsaw and thrown up in the air and thrown onto a pile of trash bags. And she tells him, you gotta finish this and go after him, and otherwise you're just gonna live in fear of this guy. And so, you know, here comes the final showdown, and she's going into this old movie theater looking for him, and he comes out, like, he has like the saw coming, and he tackles her into this hole in the building that's filled with water, and she eventually comes out of the water, and he comes in, and then the other sister, who was actually injured in the car that crashed in trying to get him, and had like a steel bar stuck in her leg. So she was able to get herself out, and she jumped on his back to help them get away. And she got a hold of the shotgun that her sister had, that she had gotten from Sally, who was initially trying to kill him. And, you know, she shoots him. He falls into the water, and it looks like he's going to die. But before I get to the end of this, I want to go back to might be one of my favorite scenes in any horror movie. So this happens like in the middle, right before all this happens. So there's a bus full of people, they're partying, it's raining, and you know, they like those keys that she got from him, that was to the bus, and they're trying to get away. And then the guy who's the driver, he decides to get out to check on the bus. You see his head thrown back in, and here comes Leatherface, and he's coming in. Everybody picks up their phone, and he's like saying, "I'm gonna cancel you," all that. And it just obnoxious behavior. And to see Leatherface cancel this woke moment of people, you know, trying to film everything. You know, this is society today. I just love the fact that they put that in the movie. That was absolutely fantastic. One of the gorier scenes I've seen in really any horror movie. And he's just, you know, sawing everybody up. They eventually escape. So Netflix and the directors, producers, and who made that scene, the writers, thank you for that scene. That was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. One of my favorites in really any horror movies. That scene was fantastic, as Leatherface canceled the woke culture. But yeah, now back to the ending. So they get out, and they're into the car, and like I said, I was rooting for him in a way, because these young people came into the house. They had kind of stayed hidden. They were just trying to do their own things, and they essentially, the stress that they put on his mother, you know, killed her, and that flipped the switch where he went crazy again. But they put this was a really cool scene. The two girls, the two sisters, they're leaving, and they're trying to head home or whatever. They have a little happy moment. They put the car in auto drive, and just as they're getting ready to come out, Leatherface grabs Melody, but the more obnoxious character takes her out and throws her on the ground and saws her head off. Absolutely brutal scene. Fucking love that. And the sister's just like through the sunroof, and she's watching her as the car is like taking her, and just epic visual scene. Just the visual, like I said, the visuals in this movie are fantastic, but stay till after the credits because of the post-credit scene. And so you see Leatherface, and keep in mind he was shot, and so he's limping, and he's holding his saw, and we see a familiar area, and this is the Sawyer family home. He's walking to it, so this could indicate that there's a sequel coming. Maybe there's still some family members that are still around, and he's going back to them. So Netflix, please do a sequel to this. That's gotta mean that they're coming again. I love what you did this, and I want to see the direction you're going again. Netflix, thank you for this movie. It was really good. I enjoyed it. My recommendation to you guys is definitely go see it. If you love horror, if you love gore, if you love, slasher flicks, hell, if you're a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, go watch this on Netflix. It just came out. I definitely recommend it. To my Walking Dead fans who are watching this, there is a Walking Dead connection in this. So in the beginning, the sheriff, who is played by William Hope, so he is actually the voice of Grant Moore in Overkill's The Walking Dead game that came out, I believe I don't know if it was 2016 or 2018, but so there is a Walking Dead connection. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. It was a lot of fun, scary, a lot of tension. You actually, like I said, I rooted for Leatherface this time, where before I was rooting for, the people to get away in the other movies, but this time I, in a way, kind of felt bad for him. Except for Leela, like, she was probably one of the more likable characters. I felt bad for her because in her past she was looked like part of a school shooting. So this is another big trauma for her, and she of course is a surviving character of this movie. But yeah, Netflix, I cannot wait for another movie to this. Looks like this series is going to continue. We're going to get some more. Everybody go watch this. I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it. Again, thank you guys for watching me. I hope you enjoyed my review. As always, I love you guys.